Dear friends, so nice to see you all again. Hope you are doing great. My name is Forrest Pan. I'm a web and a mobile developer based in New York City. Today we are continuing our matchmaking React app with map integration solution. Today's video is video 4.3, and this is a continuation of our journey to explore how much code sharing we can achieve across React and React Native platforms. Let's start with our agenda today. Video 4.3, basically we are going to use Redux to render messages, and we will have three steps or tasks. First, we're going to render messages from the backend, which is Heroku backend that I deployed. And then we are going to render messages from backend with real markers. And then we will render messages from backend with real markers that are only within a certain distance from a neighborhood, so that eventually this matchmaking app can connect between people with mutual interests, with potential dating interests. So let's start with our code. Oh, maybe we look at what we have so far. So we can go back to our latest code. So from last time, video 4.2, we are able to track the map center by using Redux. This is how it works. Whenever the map center moves, we track the new map center by eventually using Redux, so that map center is managed as a global um, state. Um, so let's go back to our code. So we start from uh, where we left off last time. So first and foremost, we are going to we already have Redux here, and we're going to um, create actions that can fetch messages from the backend. But before that, we need to create a API manager help desk. So let's start doing this. We're going to the command line, create a new window. We're going to make new folders. We call it src utils. And under src utils, we will have index.js file, and another is called API manager. And we will be working on these two files. So in index, we'll do what we always do, import API manager from API manager. And we're going to export. API manager. And then we go to API manager. We need a couple of dependencies. What do we need in here? First of all, we need npm install. We need super agent. Okay, while it's still installing, we are start working on our code in here. So import super agent from super agent. And another one, we need to import promise from Bluebird. We also need to install that npm dependency here, but we'll do it later. So we're going to export default get a URL params, and we're going to return new promise resolve reject. And then here we will use super agent. We will get URL query params set accept application JSON and end with response. So if we're going to reject and then return. Otherwise, we're going to resolve response with that body. So we need npm install Bluebird. Let's see. Yeah, we can do that. Npm install say Bluebird. I would like to have a particular version at 3.50. Okay, npm install and let it npm install while we move on to our code. So this is the setup of API manager, a help class. And let's go back to Redux. So in here, we need to add a new one. It's called messages received. Messages received. Messages received. Messages received. Very nice. Then actions. So in actions, we're going to have a new one. We're going to have fetch messages action here. We can probably say fetch messages params, and we're going to return this batch. And here we will say after we return this batch, we're going to say we need to import API manager here. API manager from, I probably need 2 levels up, and utils. API manager. We're going to get, here we need the URL for the endpoint to pull REST API backend data in JSON format. So we already know, I already set up a backend at Heroku. It's called HappyDating backend. I already have these data already there. So just copy this. Param, I just say no at this time. Get, and then with response, we're going to console log, as always do. Console log. I know we are in actions. Fetch messages. Console log, actions, fetch messages, plus JSON, stringify, response. And then we'll also dispatch. So we will have type, constants, should be messages received. It's from the constants. Messages received. Messages received. And the messages should be response, results from the backend. And then after that, catch error. So it will be catch error, console log, ER plus ER. So we're ready for the actions. Now we go to reducers because we have one more action here. We will also have a list. The initial state should be no. Okay. We have another case. Constant messages received. Very straightforward. Console log. Messages received plus JSON stringify action messages, and then I'm going to update dated list equals this action messages, and then we're going to return updated. Save. Okay, so reducer redux ready. We go back to container messages. So in here we need to connect to the redux. So how we do it? Very simple. We have a lot of codes we can share, even within the React project. So you remember in the map navigation, we have this. All of them are shareable. And even for this, we can share from everything all the way from here to here. So in the messages component, just need this. Of course, it's not update current location. It should be fetch messages as per in our actions.js, action/index.js. So we're gonna fetch messages, messages, and messages. And before render, we need to component did mount. We're going to say this fetch messages, this props fetch messages. No. So when we call fetch messages in props, we should call in the Redux reducer in here. We expect to see this console log when we refresh. So you see, actually, compile is successful. If we refresh, you see, we see two sets of console log. One is from actions, fetch messages, which is this. The other one is messages received, which is in the reducer in here, messages received. So it looks like we are able to use Redux to console log the list of messages. The next step for us to do is in the messages component, we are going to render this list of messages. So in here, we just need to render the messages that are already console logged by Redux. So we const list equals to this props messages list. And under add message, this component, we're going to have unordered list. So within this, we're going to do list map message index. We're going to return the key equals to index. message user message body, and this should be the code. And so if we refresh, you see it's nicely rendered from the backend of, so the current backend have 1, 2, 3, 4 messages, 5.3 agenda, render, Redux render messages, task 1, task 2, task 3. And this works, meaning we have finished our agenda task 1, render messages from backend. And there is a problem here, if you see here, right? The markers are still the dummy markers. They're not the true markers of these messages. So we probably need to go back to the go back to the code. When you look at map navigation, we are currently markers from this state of the map navigation component. What we really want is the real backend messages marker to replace these 2 dummy markers. So what we are going to do is to build our markers from here. So basically, instead of saying get markers from this state, we are going to get messages from this props messages list. Now we have the messages. After we have the messages, we'll use the messages information to build markers. So in messages for each, this is a loop. Message I, we need to do the work. So var array equals to message geo. var key equals to, we'll have latitude and longitude, and var position equals to, we need object from entries array map. So we're going to have this map of v and I goes to keys I v. And then we need a label. So in here, label, we are a label. We want it to be like this. Message dot user plus message dot message body. And before that, need this. And in below, we will create each const marker equals to. So this will be an object with different keys. First, I have the ID. Should be message ID, but sometimes the ID is null. If ID equals to null, so I can use either ID underscore ID message dot underscore ID or message ID. Great. And position should be position. Label should be label. And before we render, it is safe for us to just console log. Console log markers built plus plus JSON stringify markers. Okay. So our markers push marker. I think this should work. I believe this is the code. We're creating the new markers. Oh, latitude. So map navigation 28, 28. This is okay, markers 38. Markers constant. So we need to const markers equals to no. Now, when we refresh, you see the markers can render, but it has a problem with unique key props. So I would say here, I would say key here. It works beautifully, renders the same markers here with their individual coordinates, which is in here. They are all around, like within the short distance of the map center. And this is our second step of today's agenda. And thirdly, I want to show you something interesting here. So you see, when you move the map center of this map, it doesn't have any impact on which markers to render, or which messages to list here, which is something we need to reconsider, because for this matchmaking app, the purpose is to connect people with potential dating interests within a certain distance. Let's say we probably, if you are, so let's say the user is in the center of this map. He or she is probably more interested in someone within walking distance to have dating activity. For users who are far away, uh, although they have potential dating interests, it's not covered by this app. So basically, our goal, we set this goal. If we move the map, when the center of this map changes, we want only the users that within the walking distance to be rendered, not as just as the marker, but also at the bottom as in the list of the messages. So how are we going to do this? Let's see. So for example, let's go back to our code. So you see, at this point, when we move the map center, it doesn't have any impact of the list down here. How can we change that? So the way we are going to do this is going to the message reducer, which is managing the map center as the global state. So as soon as the map center is changed, we update the list and let the list equals to null. But at the same time, in the messages component, we say there is a follow-up component did update There's an if statement here. If this props messages list equals to null, we are going to fetch messages one more time. Let's see what will happen. Okay, after it is refreshed, if we move the messages, please pay attention to the bottom, what impact on the listing of these 4 messages when we move. You see, it flickers. It fetch the messages from the reducer one more time. So that's exactly what we need. So for us to achieve our goal to fetch only the messages and their markers in the nearby neighborhood of the map center, we need to do this. We go to messages. We need to define a constant. We call it current. Actually, it's easier to do this way. Current location. Constant current location equals this props messages current location. And then we use current location as a param of this fetch messages action. And we will do the same thing for the component did update here as well. And at the same time, we need to go to the actions. So the param will be here instead of now. So you see, after refresh, okay, let's see. At the time when we move away, so okay, so this is a full map, and we know this is the map center. As we move the map center away slowly from the original map center, you will see things. You see, only 3 messages left because the 4th message is far away from the map center. That's why it's already outside the range. That's probably fall into this user who is at the map center's interest of potential dating because it's too far away. It's more important for him or her to see certain potential dating interests who are close enough. As we move further away from the map center, you see, we only have 2 messages. So you can see the map center is around here, and it's probably within this range. If this potential dating interest location is outside this range, it will no longer show in this both these messages list and within the map as a marker. So we move farther away from the map center a little more. You see, only 1 potential dating interest shows up within this range because the other 3 here are already out of range. If we move a little more, even this one is gone. But again, if we move back, hold on, to the map center, they all come back because they are all within the range of this map center. So if we move away, some of them will be disappearing. Too far. Sorry, I cannot date you because you are too far away. But let's say if we move back, so this one is back in the range. Move back more. 2 of them are with range. Move back more, 3. Move back more, 4. And all 4 are showing here. We have only 3. And you see the message list only has 3. So let's go back to our agenda. So we're doing pretty well. We're able to render messages from a backend as the first step. And we also render messages along with the ability to drop their marker at a particular location in this map. And thirdly, more importantly, we're able to render a selected messages which satisfy the criteria that these potential dating interests are within a range of this neighborhood for people to date after matchmaking. So this is very exciting, and another wonderful thing about this video is that almost all the codes today we write down here for the React app is shareable with our next React Native app. So I just cannot wait to share with you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon. Bye.